Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Preparis. I've got two guests on the line. Before we get to them, though, a quick word from our episode sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Juice Performer. Juice Performer we've had at every Conquer the Gauntlet for the past, 2 or 3 years, I believe it's been. And they now have cherry juice, beet juice with passion fruit, and beet juice with pineapple. The pineapple one's their newest one from last year. But if anyone wants to try some, definitely stop by the CTG Pro Team booth at the next Conquer the Gauntlet, which should be resuming on August 1st in Iowa. And we also have a coupon code for anyone that wants to actually buy it ahead of time or buy it after you taste it at our booth. And it's a CTG Pro JP. Gets you 15% off Juice Performer from Amazon.com. So when you go to Amazon.com, you have to make sure you order from like the Juice Performer company, not a third-party seller. And that's, again, CTG Pro JP, saves you 15% off. And if you want more information about them, you can head over to www.ctgprotein.com, and you can see in the recovery section, there's some information about them. All right, let's bring on our guests. So I got two guests, like I said, joining me. The first one, many people know him as Blind Pete, but I like to think of him as Endurance Pete because he's done some pretty impressive endurance things, both in the OCR world and then in just the regular running community. So, Pete, welcome to the show.
Hey, Evan. Thank you.
And then I also want to tell you a little bit more about him if you're not familiar with who Blind Pete is. One, he's blind, so he can't see, obviously. That's why he has that nickname. And then he's done a lot of impressive stuff, like I said. So 150-plus OCR finishes. He's done World's Toughest Mudder a couple times with a personal best of 45 official miles, which is one lap short of the brown bib. And that was in 2018, which was the year it was freezing over in, Atlanta, Georgia. So I remember seeing him out on the course at night, just shivering with everyone else and being impressed that he was still powering through it. He's also done some really impressive stuff on treadmills. So a 100-miler on a treadmill. He's done a 24-hour run on a treadmill. So, yeah. Any other highlights I missed, Pete, you want to throw out there?
Well, tons of highlights, but, only I'm impressed. Yeah, the fact that, I'm able to get through just certain areas in my apartment without running into too many walls, I find that impressive.
That is impressive. And then our other guest we have on is Christy Chapman. So she's a Spartan SGX certified coach, owns a fitness studio, and has been helping Pete with some of these racing stuff and some of his business plans that we have coming up that we're going to talk about later in the show. So, Christy, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's, I guess, jump into it, right? Most people know you as Blind Pete. So I think the most common question, right, would be like, are you blind from birth, or did you go blind, or, I'm just going to straight up ask it. Not sure if that's socially appropriate right off the bat, but I'll just do it.
No, it's better to just ask the question. It doesn't bother me, and I always appreciate when people ask. Born visually impaired, so when being registered for kindergarten, that's when I was diagnosed. Two degenerative conditions, and it just, kind of went slowly and gradually from there. There was always the chance that I could go totally blind, but, there was no guarantee. 2005, I lost the use of my right eye. All the capillaries decided to just rupture. Not very comfortable. And then 10 years later, the left eye just decided it was done. The funny thing about that was the day I finally realized that I can see even variations in light. I told my friend who I was rooming with, and, the next day we were heading out to South Carolina to volunteer and then run an OCR. So But ever since then, I've actually done more being totally blind, not even with light perception, than I did when I was able to see.
So when you did your first OCR, had you ever physically seen a course before? No.
No. Even going through video, I still had no idea what to anticipate. And what's even funnier is I showed up and I started solo at that first one.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild. As an athlete who's done a bunch of them, I think of, all right, if I put on a blindfold and try to mimic some of this, in my mind, I already have that mental picture of how far apart the holds are, what they look like, what the superstructure looks like, maybe even what the course looks like if it's on the same venue. But that's not at all what you're facing. So I actually got to run with you in Conquer the Gauntlet 2018 in Little Rock. Yes. And I went back out and did the second half of your lap with you. And I was blown away by how proficient you were at some of the stuff, right? Like there's an A-frame cargo net and you got to the top and did the flip. And I mean, there are people who can see climbing up next to you and they're like slowly making their way up, and Pete like beelines it to the top, does the flip and comes down like it was no big deal. And I was like, that was just amazing. Like if I was videotaping it, it would have been like, well, the guy on the edge is blind who's moving slowly. Like you wouldn't be able to pick you out. Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I'm a little bit more high functioning than most in my situation, but that's taken time. Climbing, when I remember the one part where we were at the 5 8-foot walls,
mm-hmm.
and it took me a while just to get over an 8-foot wall on my own, and then doing 5 back to back. At that point, 2018. It was challenging, but not something that was going to slow me down too much. But that took a lot of time. It took practice, and that's why I'm able to do what I'm doing. I'm able to do what I do. It's because of the practice. 150 OCRs. That's everything from a warrior dash up to world's toughest mudder.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many people who've probably done more than you as far as number of races, period, right? I mean, there's...
It keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's impressive. So I guess just take us through the whole experience. Like, what's the experience like? And maybe some things that someone who can see probably wouldn't consider challenges that you have to face.
I'm one of Pete's guides, and I kicked him in the head on the slip wall, wasn't it?
Yes. At Asheville last year, not something anticipated, extremely competitive. She's even willing to take out a blind person, but I challenged her to the race, so, that's what I get. But, one of the surprises, something I didn't anticipate. That was actually my fault because I've done a slip wall so many times and I've even challenged people, but at the same time, what I should have, safety is important to me. So what I try to anticipate is, what's going to be safe for me, what's going to be safe for all the other people around me. So, I didn't think at the time, because the slip wall was pretty much at the very, very end of the race. The fire jump was just after. And I should have thought, let's put a rope in between us so, we don't have accidents. But, when you're, and I'm sure people can understand this, when you're in a race, you've got that challenge, you're not really thinking about those little things. You just want to get up, go, beat the person, beat your competition. And I'm no different. Obviously, Christy isn't.
Mm-hmm. It didn't slow me down. I wanted to win.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just going through the course, like I said, practice, doing all those OCRs, a lot of things, I just need to know the name of the obstacle. And I'm not really surprised by much, even the obstacles that seem different. There's a base, there's something familiar about it.
Yeah. Yeah, in one of my books, I write that all the obstacles you encounter are just variations off of previous obstacles. So once you have like a certain base of knowledge on certain types, you just kind of encounter them again and again, and lot of times they're mixed matched and they're pieces of one with a piece of another. So,
Or,
yeah.
General design. Another thing that happened at Asheville, I'm now very proud of. Bender.
Oh,
Now
that
Bender,
was a good one.
Bender, hopefully people are familiar with this obstacle. It's very similar to the inverted wall, but you have to reach up higher, and it's constructed of pipes rather than just wood. So it's almost like a ladder, but it's leaning towards you, and you do what you do with the inverted wall is get up to the top, pull yourself over, and go down the other side. I was trying to be showy, so this is the second time I did this.
And did not warn his guide it was coming.
Yeah, this is why I need supervision constantly. What happened was I tried to, or what I did was the flip that I normally do for the A-frame cargo over the top of Bender, and got my head caught in between the pipes.
Wait,
It was awful.
that's rough.
Yeah, that is. I was showing off the first time, which I have the video. I just haven't had. I need to get it up on social media. I actually completed it my very first time. No hitches. It went perfect, and I actually have video that was the Ohio Ultra in 2019. My 50th Spartan race, actually.
Nice. So with the quarantine been going on, there's been a lot of virtual races. Now, I know you've been working on something pretty awesome. So, Christy or Pete, why don't you go ahead and share that news with us?
Go ahead, Pete.
Okay. Well, I had the idea back in early March, trying to come up with an idea. I was looking at some ideas of creating fundraising events, and then I decided right around the end of March, beginning of April, maybe I can come up with an idea for virtual events that you complete while blindfolded. Add a new perspective, offer a new challenge, things that are simple and yet at the same time, are completely unique, or let's say most people don't take the opportunity, to try things from this particular perspective. Trying a 1 mile or a 5K run, whether you want to do it on a treadmill or what I find I find it's better when you're out running with somebody else, because, two people are learning. One's learning how to guide, the other one's having the experience of, running without being able to see, using, their other senses. And, I just want to point out that, losing one sense does not automatically enhance any of the others. It's just like working out. You have to develop the skill. So, but, this is one way of doing that. And, keeping it safe, keeping it at a, short distance. You're under the blindfold for too long, then, things take a while to readjust. A friend of mine did the West Virginia trifecta weekend, the whole weekend, in fact, with a blindfold on, either goggles or an actual blindfold. And after about a week, he said that's when his sight started returning to normal. So, any type of sensory deprivation, that's a very serious thing. So I want to keep it simple and, not expose, not cause any complications. But aside from runs, there are also challenges, workouts and other, fun things, but you're doing these with a blindfold on. And, it definitely adds a completely new element to, a workout. And, adding more challenges to just a regular workout. The one thing I'd like to ask you, Evan, is I spoke with you about this, and you had put a small team together of people you thought would be, great to test this out. And I'd like your impression of, what you experienced.
Yeah, so we grabbed Doug Snyder and Lisa Nandor from the Conquer the Gauntlet Pro team and Brenna Calvert from Strength and Speed, and we ran through a couple of the workouts. I think Brenna did the treadmill run and then also the workout, I believe, and then Doug and Lisa kind of took turns guiding each other for the run, and then also did the workout. And I just did the workout. And I'm not a huge fan of virtual events. Like, I think it's good we have them to help keep the businesses that are afloat during this time. But this was really cool. I mean, it really gave you a whole new appreciation for trying to do things sensory deprived. I feel like I put a lot of thought into it ahead of time. I put out a bunch of markers so I could touch stuff and be like, all right, this is spatially where I am. Because Pete, one of the things, we'll get into it later, but you had me do is basically you take a cup of water and you have to move it after each set. Keeps you spatially aware and gives you like another task to do. And on my first set of push-ups, I hit my face on the cup. So that was pretty good. and then I made it through most of the workout without knocking it over. I finally knocked it over towards the end. I think probably because I was getting either cocky or trying to power through it faster. But it was really interesting, and it was challenging, and I couldn't believe how quickly I lost sense of where I was in relation to the like exercise equipment I was doing. Like, I was doing push-ups, pull-ups, and this balance thing. And the balance thing was so hard with no vision. But I still, even with like going back down to do push-ups, I thought I'd be in one place, and then I could hear my 5-year-old daughter laughing at me, and I realized I was like, all right, I'm like 4 feet from where I thought I was. So it was
myself, and it is hilarious to see how quick you lose your orientation.
Yeah. So I'm really excited when this opens up for everyone and their signups and stuff, because I think the videos we're going to get out of this are going to be hysterical from people, especially if people cut out some of their highlight reels or low light, whatever we want to call them, and start posting them online. I think it's going to be a riot. And it does give you something new to challenge versus like, hey, I'm going to run around my block, which is where I normally run anyway. So it's not a big deal. But I know when Doug and Lisa talked, when we talked to them, they'd be like, all right, well, now we're going up a little hill, as they're running. And Lisa's like, well, how long's the hill? Am I at 2% grade? Am I at 15% grade? Is it a mile long? Is it a quarter? You suddenly realize how very specific you have to be when giving each other directions and, guiding each other. So
I've given up on asking how far it is, compared to races. Is it South Carolina or is it Killington?
Yeah.
I mean, if I have that much information, and one thing that I found fascinating was when I first told you about the virtual challenge, I really didn't give you any parameters, and I was actually extremely impressed that you came up with ways of figuring out setting up your workout area. There's things work differently for different people. I want it to be a challenge, but at the same time, it's going to be fair unless you actually have done this 100 times the same way. And being that, I'm the only one who, does things like this on a regular basis, there's no way to cheat. There's no wrong way of doing it. There's no right way of doing it. Whatever works. And, it's still going to be a challenge. And the other thing is for the challenges, not the runs. I don't want anyone trying to beat, speed records trying to run. I mean, I think that's more dangerous than just having the experience. But with the virtual challenges, there is a competitive option. There are going to be prizes available, and that's where I think a lot of the highlights for reels are going to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So when does sign up open, and where can we find that information?
Well, at the moment, we're still working on the actual dates, and it should be up probably no later than 19th of June, the very, very latest. It'll be through Racing Tree, the registration site. You'll be able to also find it mostly on Facebook. The name of the event series is called Blind Man Running.
Blind Man Running, you said? You broke up a little bit.
I wanted to come up with something that people would recognize.
Yep. Good stuff. Well, this podcast should be coming out the 18th. So hopefully the link will be up. And as soon as it does go up, we'll share it on the Strength and Speed page, and I'll share it to my personal Facebook page, and we'll spread it around some of the OCR groups. So if you're listening to this, you should be able to find it pretty easily. And I'm sure, Pete, you'll have it on your Facebook page and stuff like that too. So.
And I just wanted to, say something. Christy, who's been absolutely wonderful. She's helped me in so many different ways. A great friend. She lets me wander on my own in her, fitness studio. I've come in just to help. Even today, I just came in to, help with sanitizing some of the equipment. But just coming in and, when I asked her about, would you, want to be a part of this? And she said, yeah.
Absolutely.
So she's, almost as crazy as I am. No, actually, she's a little bit. I have to take her laterally.
So since there's going to be some athletes doing some blind running and they're going to need guides, as an experienced guide, Christy, give us some tips and techniques that people can use or tell their, loved ones to use or training partner to use to help them not trip over a curb or not get hit by a car, etc.
The first thing they can do is watch Pete's videos on how to be a guide, because those are going to be part of this presentation as well. So I would do that first. He'll give all the tips on which side you should stand on, how fast you should go, all the good stuff that he works on. I would definitely just get used to craziness, because running a blind guy around gets pretty crazy around here and entertaining. So it's going to be a lot of fun, though. It's going to be a great event.
Awesome. Now, I know, Pete, you shared some of the swag, I guess we call it, that's supposed to come with the event. Has that been finalized? Can we talk about that? Or
yeah, actually, it's this I actually gave quite a bit of thought to. And first of all, in order to participate in a blindfolded event of any type, you should really have a blindfold. And that's like that's the main component. So you're going to get a custom blindfold. The ones right now, they are going to change over time, because this is a series of events, and they're all going to be all kinds of different challenges and themes to them. Some of them based on basic techniques as far as being blind, and just crazy things just to have fun and challenge yourself. But the blindfold, I should say the first one for the first set is blind man running. And on top of that, you have the bibs. Now for the challenges, it's for the challenges and the runners for the runs, it's going to be a unique bib, looking at just having something creative rather than just a number. But with the runs, I thought, the guides, a lot of them just don't get any recognition. So I want them to be recognized. They get their own bib when they sign up for the runs, and it's going to have something to signify what they're doing. I'll give one example, and that is the bib for one of the guide bibs would be, I'm not the crazy one, I'm just guiding them.
Nice.
And then, on top of that, finisher bling, that's important. I enjoy it. I like the finisher bling, even if it's just the participation medal or the finisher medal, because it's a sense of accomplishment. Some people are just going out there for the experience, and, that means something. So, right now I'm going with wooden tokens, and, and the guides once again, for the runs, you get an additional token for your guide.
Nice.
So I want to make sure everybody's included, everybody gets something from this, but the most important thing is the experience.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really excited for this. I think this is by far the most exciting virtual event I've heard of, over this entire quarantine period. So I really want to see people's videos when they start posting them online, because it's just going to be amazing. So
yeah, definitely with the competitive challenges, that's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, there's not going to be any additional charge for that. Sometimes you have that, but the only thing you'll have to do is submit your video. And, there are going to be rules, there are going to be guidelines, They have to be, everything has to be set up, so it's fair across the board. And Christy and I will be the judges. It's going to be based on two factors. She will be covering performance. I'll be covering time. And, there'll be instructions on how to, for me, to be able to determine whether or when you start and when you finish.
Awesome. Now, Pete, I know you've done some very impressive physical stuff in the last couple of years. We covered some of them at the beginning when I introduced you. Let's assume 2020 goes back to normal. What do you have planned for 2020 and maybe 2021? And then are there any kind of like long-term major physical goals you have set out?
For 2020, I'm thinking by October, hopefully things will be somewhat back to normal. Looking at the Texas Ultra, the next weekend, a few of the Tough Mudder Texas races, World's Toughest. I might just go nuts with Savage the weekend after, and finish up with some half marathons and a few more Spartans. I also need to redeem myself from last year's North Carolina Ultra. That was a brutal course. That is my only official DNF.
Oh wow! What was the issue?
The issue was basically the weather. The rain was just changing the terrain so much that I was being guided by a great friend. His name is Adam, and he's run an ultra. He does a lot of rucking and endurance events, but this is his first time guiding anybody. And with the rain, it wasn't just a drizzle, or it wasn't downpour that turned into a drizzle. No, it was a drizzle that turned into just a soupy, muddy mess, and it was becoming unsafe. And safety is the top priority. For me, it's paramount. So I'm thinking, we're either going to get hurt, or one of us is going to die on this course, and that just doesn't. I don't consider that to be a reasonable outcome. So
yeah.
Just before transition, and Adam made it to the transition. So, and I wasn't going to hold Adam back. Just because someone's guiding me doesn't mean if I can't make it, they shouldn't go on.
Gotcha. All right.
Myself, and then 2021, I'm working on another project. I was hoping to do it in 2021, but I think it's going to be sometime a little after my 50th birthday. I haven't said much about this, publicly, but I want to run across the Great Lakes. I know
people are scratching their head right now. So why don't you explain that a little bit better?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, for years and years, I wanted to run across the English Channel. People swim across it. Why not run across it? It's very simple. I realized it'd be just as expensive, or probably be more expensive, to go over to the UK. And, there are other bodies of water that I can jog across. And so I just decided. And plus, I'm getting almost 4 times the distance for 540 miles, generally. Now, you're probably wondering, and I plan on completing this in under 10 days. How am I going to run across the lake? Well, I figured, the best way is, I'm still working on the design, but I thought a human-sized hamster wheel that floats.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what you ultimately come up with. So I know I've seen those big inflatable ones that are just basically an inflatable ball, but all I can think about is just sweating excessively inside this plastic ball.
Not the ball. I need something that's going to be open on both ends, because, a ball, I need something that has a little more control with the direction.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And then I think there's all sorts of problems of current and, I don't know. Obviously, the current in a lake is probably not super strong, but still.
You're talking about inland seas. So, yeah, I've done a little bit of research. There's some books that I've read that are, focused on those geographic areas. And they talk about, the climate and everything in the books. So this is not a simple jog. 540 miles under 10 days across large bodies of water in a giant or human-sized hamster wheel. But this is, people swim across distances. They bike, they run. They climb mountains. I'm not trying to be weird. I'm just trying to find new challenges.
No, I hear you. In the world of ultra running, you can go wherever, right? I mean, it's just, you can do FKTs of like long trails. You can run across the United States. You can run across some other country. You can run across a state. It's really up to your imagination. And similar to you, right? Like I like doing things that have not been done before, right? Like running across the United States is harder than any of the endurance challenges I've done, but it's been done by, I don't know how many people. It's been done by a lot of people. It's, in the ultra running world, it's like a fairly, I don't say common thing, but it's no longer like headline news anymore. Versus this is something very, very unique. And so I think that's cool. I think that's clever. And I'm curious to see how it pans out in the future. So
if this goes well, then, the next step or my next challenge, which may not happen for a year or so, but there's the Gulf of Mexico. That's only 930 miles.
Cool.
That's going to take a little bit longer. And yes, I did look at the distances of the three oceans a little bit beyond reasons.
I'm pretty sure you'd die if you did that. So why don't we start smaller and work our way bigger? And we can go from there.
So 7,100 miles.
So, Christy, tell us a little bit about the fitness studio you own and where it is and where we can find out more information.
We're just outside of Chattanooga, so about an hour and a half from Atlanta, just inside of Georgia. And it's amazing. I've got 14,000 square feet. We've got Spartan obstacles. We've got a full gym. We've got monkey bars. We've got everything you can imagine in here. And an amazing team. I think I've got 4 trainers now that are Spartan obstacle specialists, and about 20 people on staff. So
nice. What's the name of the gym again?
Powerhouse Studios.
Okay, got it. And where are you going to be coming at, assuming races resume in a somewhat normal fashion at some point this summer? Where are you going to be at?
I was scheduled for, which ultra was it?
Fayetteville.
Yeah, Fayetteville. It's canceled. So I really don't know what the schedule's looking like. I'm going to be in Jacksonville next weekend. I'm hitting that one up. I'm just coming off of a really bad leg injury, though, so I don't know how that's going to go, but hopefully it'll go smooth.
Gotcha. Well, best wishes on your recovery back to form, and hopefully that goes all right. And it sounds like you got a good community and support system back at your gym, so I'm sure that's a nice thing to have.
This is incredible. Yeah, just an incredible place. I haven't done it for a little while, but I love doing the rope climb. I just have to be careful because I do hit my head on the support beam that it's attached to.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, that makes one of us.
So many blind jokes, but you must have like a stack of them that you're just crushing through.
Rolling around here all day, every day.
Yeah, me and Pete we've talked on the phone a couple times in the last month, and yeah, he always gets me with a couple, and I'm always like, like, how did I not see that coming? Just like that statement, so.
Most people, say they feel embarrassed, not realizing that I appreciate it, and you get bonus points. People who do know me, they know that I'm not going to be bothered by the blind jokes. It's not, unless I know it's meant maliciously.
Right, yeah.
The biggest thing is people have issues with, people are afraid to offend, somebody who's different. I'm trying to make people feel comfortable. I wear a blindfold with googly eyes attached to it. I'm wearing one. That right now.
It's amazing.
One thing I did want to say, I was speaking with somebody who's affiliated with a social media group that works with, those with disabilities. And when I spoke with her last night, and this is something I've spoken with you about, Evan. The name of the group is called Be More Adaptive. And, it's about getting more people with, various different types of disabilities, into sports, into something, sport or athletic related. And my goal was to not just make, the blind men running virtual events accessible to, the average person. I wanted to be accessible to everybody, and making the accommodations and the adaptations to make, so somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who is an amputee, somebody with various, different types of mobility, and, whatever disability it is. So it's not going to happen. I'm working with her and people who, and resources that she's putting me in touch with to make that happen. So this is an all-inclusive, virtual event series.
Gotcha. Nice. That's great. I know we've talked on the phone. I know you've been excluded from some things in the past. We don't need to go into that, but unfortunate for something like a virtual event. But so let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I want to help out, people who maybe have some sort of disability that still want to do OCR. Like, can I be a guide for someone? Is this a good group to go to, that the one that you just mentioned? Be More Adaptive, or is there other places that people can go to like maybe volunteer their time or effort or energy? Do you know of any?
I would say, you can always get in touch with the admin. Her name's Honor, and message her. I know that she's extremely busy because she does this as part of what she does in her work. But there are other groups. There's More Heart Than Scars, which is a great group. There's another group. They're located in near Asheville, North Carolina. There's another group in the Northeast called Team Belief 923. There's also another group. I think it's mainly for running, but they may also. I think they help with events like triathlons. Billy's Foundation.
What was that one again?
Billy's Foundation.
Okay. Cool. And we'll try to grab links from you of all those, and we'll throw them up with the podcast link on the Strength and Speed page, so people can access those and hopefully help out in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there are other groups I probably am not even aware of that, you can, get in touch with them, see, find out what you can do. So I'm sorry, I forgot about Operation Enduring Warrior and veteran.
Yeah, those are veteran ones. I'm tracking those. Yeah.
There's a lot of groups. There's always the need for help to get an adaptive or disabled athlete through a course, whether it be OCR or some other type of race or event. I'd say for those who are interested who have disabilities, try to get in touch with these organizations, but don't think that you will be able to do a Spartan Ultra or even a Toughest Mudder in the first year. I know athletes who have done that. I don't know how they did it because it was like 4 years before I did my first Spartan.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like I said, it took me time, but, when I realized that I could embrace the craziness, fully, I just went head first.
Nice. Now, one of the things we do, I did not prep you for this question, so it was going to blindside both of you. But one of the things we do on the podcast is we like to ask people one thing that people would be surprised to know about you. So Christy or Pete, either one of you can go first, whoever's got a good one. And the less it has to do with fitness or OCR, typically the better.
The less it has to do with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
I'm a general contractor.
I'm sorry, say again.
Most people can't believe that I'm a general contractor.
Okay.
So we build houses and stuff like that on the side. That's my real job. This is my fun job.
Oh, cool. Nice. All right, Pete, what do you got?
Actually, two. One might not be too surprising for some people who know me. I do collect various types of blades and swords.
Amazing. Why aren't we best friends already?
I'll send you some pictures.
They're pretty cool.
The other is I do collect actual books.
Oh, that's interesting.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I do like the feel. Just having a book. There's more to it than just words on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Several books for 20 years.
So, I mean, I know you consume a lot of audiobooks, so give us, I don't know, what are some of your favorite audiobooks to listen to?
I'm just towards the end of the Stephen King's Dark Tower cycle for the 3 or 4 dozenth. I've read it 3 or 4 dozen times.
Yep.
Then there's the Jim Butcher Dresden Files. I need to get back to Sun Tzu's Art of War, as well as The Prince by Machiavelli. I try to keep a broad, just try to keep things a broad range of topics and genres.
Okay.
Very, very heavily, one of my favorites is the fantasy genre.
Okay.
But space is.
Nice. Well, you mentioned the thing about the blades, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, but I used to collect knives when I was a little kid, I guess not little kid. I was in high school and early college. I collected knives, and then I ended up giving away and getting rid of a bunch of them. So I think I'm down to 60 or so now. But I have them in a jewelry armoire in my house. So if you try to break into my house and steal our jewelry armoire, you're just gonna get knives. So it's gonna be probably disappointing for you. And then you mentioned buying books and reading and listening to audiobooks. For quarantine, I've spent most of my time heavily reading two fairly opposing random topics. So one of them was early Christianity. So writers from between the 1st and basically the 9th century. So I was reading through books that were, hundreds of years old, basically written by saints, which was pretty interesting. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, I was reading basically the expanded universe for the Terminator franchise. So I read through almost all the comic books that I could get my hands on, digital or hard copy. And then I'm still working my way through the actual novels that tells you some of the backstories that you see in the movies. So when you see something in a movie, sometimes that character has a deeper backstory. So those are the two topics I've been spending most of quarantine researching. So
I wanted to add one thing. Now I have a serious and acute fear of zombies.
Mm-hmm.
I make it a point to read Max Brooks' Zombie Survival Guide once a month.
Nice. That's a good book. That's a good one.
It reads like stereo instructions, but it has what you need.
Yeah. And I know we talked about it on the phone, but World War Z, the book, not the movie, the book is phenomenal. And I know the audiobook specifically is even better because they have famous actors come in and read through the parts. So it's basically a bunch of short stories post-zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it's basically an oral history. I actually took an oral history class in college, so it brought memories back of that. But on the flip side of let's say what's considered mainstream, I actually read a series, reread it recently. It's by an author named Gina Showalter, and she's more of a her books are what she writes is more towards the teenage crowd, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of, although I've only heard about them, like the Twilight movies, kind of, right around that range. But this is the zombie series, 4 books, and it has a Alice in Wonderland runs into Zombieland.
Mm. Interesting.
Called The White Rabbit Chronicles. It's actually really interesting, the audio is. Wouldn't know about the actual writing, but a very, very interesting series.
Huh. Cool. Well, if anyone needs good book recommendations, I feel like Pete's the man to go to because especially for fiction, I usually don't read a lot of fiction, minus very random topics. But All right, we're going to start wrapping things up. Pete, thanks again for coming on. The virtual race, I'm, like I said, completely looking forward to it. Can't wait to see it and seeing people's videos go up online. Before we go, though, any final shout-outs you want to give to family, friends, sponsors, etc.? Christy, you can go first.
Well, I just want to thank Pete for being here and making us part of this. It's fun. But OCR Addicts is our race team, and I think if you guys could check that out, that would be awesome.
Awesome. We'll throw a link up for them too on when the podcast goes up. And then Pete, any final shout-outs, friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Well, Our House Studios is the sponsor for Blind Man Running. So definite shout out for Christy and her studio. And I have to thank you, Strength and Speed. And I've been thinking since you had mentioned that date for the Iowa CTG, Conquer the Gauntlet, I think that is one that I'm going to try to get to.
Awesome.
So I've never been to Iowa, and I'm one of those people who wants to race at least one race in every state. I'm only at 18.
Nice. I think I'm at 30 or something. I have a list on the Strength and Speed website of people who are like checking off states. So we'll have to get you added to that.
Okay.
The Iowa course is pretty cool. I mean, you run through, as you'd expect, you kind of run through cornfields, and it's kind of flat at the beginning. But then it kind of weaves into the back half of the course. You end up going through some streams, and you go kind of like up and down this big ravine area. So before you come back into an open field and back to the finish line to the festival area. So it's actually a really good course. It's the only one that's the only one I've won the elite wave at. So back in 2018. So special place for me.
Allergy to elevation?
No, there's no elevation. It's flat, and then it's got like just that one ravine part. It's kind of the footing and handholds are there a little bit tricky, but it's not bad.
I'll have to see it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm getting the hang of the blind jokes now. I got them. They're queued up now. So, well, hopefully, I look forward to seeing you later this year. And other than that, if anyone's looking for a good documentary, Helene Dumais, who we've had on the podcast 2 times before, her Facing Infinitus was just released earlier this month. It's about her attempting to become the first woman to finish the 888-kilometer Infinitus race in Vermont. It's a 10-day race, so she kind of covers a couple of years there, with the majority of it focused on 1 year. And it's not just about her, but it also covers a lot of the other athletes that are running. Kind of pretty cool getting into their mindset and stuff like that. And then other than that, I just opened up pre-order for another one of a book that I just finished up. It's digital only, and I'm going to keep it as digital only just because of the nature of the book. But if you head over to Amazon or the Strength and Speed website, you can find links to it there. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that, and then I will talk about that more later, maybe on the next episode. If you want to get a sneak peek of what's going on, you can head over and check that out. I think that's about it. And yeah, hoping race season resumes soon and things get back to normal.
No, we can't wait. Thanks for having us on.
All right. Thanks. Good talking to both of you.